My name is Tzipporah Goins. I'm from Baltimore and I live in New York. Well, I'm the only vegan in my whole school. And when I first became vegan, I remember I announced it to my class because we did like this highlight of your summer. And I was like, I became vegan this summer, and that was in 2017. And my class was like, oh, okay. And veganism is very foreign to a lot of people. And I know my classmates, first they started picking on me, some of them. And I was fine with that because, you know, they're just joking around. My teacher, my homeroom teacher would pick on me sometimes. No one really batted an eye about it until I started bringing my packed lunches to school because I can't eat the school lunch because, you know, it's not vegan friendly most of the time. And if I do, I can usually only eat French fries. Being in high school and being vegan is sometimes a challenge when it comes to like, for instance, being in science class, when you're talking about like dissections and stuff, I have to tell my teacher I won't participate in dissections. Or if you disagree with something someone says, especially if you're younger than them or if you're in the same age, you still have to have that level of respect. And if I were to argue with them on something, it could come across the wrong way. So in the beginning it was challenging, but now I'm a lot more vocal about being vegan. It's not as though they didn't accept it, it was more of just, oh haha, she's vegan, and, you know, jokes and things like that. But yeah, it's something that people have accepted. It's common, like, oh, you know, she's the vegan in the class. And then when someone does hear, like a new student hears that I'm vegan, they're like, wow, really? Like, how come? Everyone always wants to know why you're vegan in the first place. But yeah, my teacher, he sometimes brings our class snacks and he always makes sure they're like vegan friendly. So that's really nice. I remember one time one of the ladies in school, she brought in like ice cream and she made sure to accommodate for me, so that was cool. I don't expect it, you know, if I can't participate, that's not a problem of theirs, but that's nice to have when you're in high school. So in terms of growing up, I kind of want to live a nomadic lifestyle in the sense of traveling around and going to different countries, like it's called, I guess, the backpack lifestyle, I'm not sure exactly, but I know that eating out when it comes to going to other countries will be challenging, and having experienced being in other places and literally starving sometimes. I've gone places where I couldn't eat for hours because veganism isn't very popular in a lot of other countries. It's not something people are thinking about actively. So spreading the word to other places rather than just America. So when I see vegans that are in other countries and other continents and things talking about veganism, that's really great. But yeah, so that's something I've had to think about a minute. You know, if I live a nomadic lifestyle where I'm traveling a lot and just kind of, yeah, going out in the wild and things, veganism isn't as easy. So that's another challenge that I have to combat, I guess. So another thing for my career as I get older is I would really love to open up a tea shop because I enjoy collecting tea, and I also want to have like vegan treats that people can have that are affordable and in an area where vegan food is really hard to find. Just a lot of people it's not easily accessible, so that would be awesome. For my school, we're doing this project. It's called Seminar Week, and basically you team up with other kids, so it's ages 12 to 18, basically, grades 6 to 12. And this year, the theme is business, and we're going to we created a makeshift coffee shop. And I was really excited because, first of all, I actually originally wasn't allowed to be the owner of the business because I'm only a sophomore, but then I asked like special request if I was allowed to, and it was just a lot of fun. And because my mom's a caterer, I got to plan the menu, and being vegan, like I had to make sure I have those vegan baked goods in there because I enjoy baking, and I enjoy baking. I didn't enjoy baking until I became vegan, actually, because you get to be so creative and like creating these fun like orange blossom brownies. Like that was a lot of fun for me, and we're gonna open up again on Tuesday, like our fake makeshift coffee shop. And so I'm really excited for that, and all the brownies sold out, and that just made me feel really great because the people who bought it I know weren't vegan, but to have those options for people and then also to make them unique, so they're not just regular brownies, they're like orange blossom, chocolate rose petal. And so that made me happy to have people trying them. And my teacher, the teacher who makes fun of me and jokes around about being vegan, he said they were really great. So it's fun to get people to try new things. And we have like Christmas parties at the school, and I try and bring in vegan things. And I remember the first year I brought in, it wasn't last Christmas, but the Christmas before, I brought in vegan chocolate chip cookies, and I made them like with a little bit of twist. So my chocolate chip cookie, it's not really a secret, but I like to add cinnamon in it. And it was a hit, like everyone ate them and they were gone. And people were like, I can't believe this is vegan. They're like, wow, and my teachers are complimenting it, and having people realize that veganism can be tasty, like vegan food can be good. Some of the challenges of being vegan would probably be, well, first of all, being 16. If I want to hang out with my friends, I can't go to just any restaurant. It's just, like there are a few, like I go to Chipotle probably very frequently because I live very close to it, and then Mods because there's dairy-free cheese and things. But it is hard to eat out, and when my friends want to grab something, they're like, okay, well these are the only places you can eat at that aren't very expensive that we can go to. And yeah, also price is a big thing. Coming from a household with a single mom, I have to be careful of how much certain things cost. I know that like I like going to Whole Foods whenever I go out to eat at this one place every weekend, and Whole Foods is out there. And I like going there, but I don't go there very often because it is very expensive when I do buy vegan things. Vegetables inherently in themselves are not expensive, but things such as alternatives like, well, not necessarily like tofu or anything, that's pretty cheap, but like vegan chocolate chips, for instance, can sell at $5 at Giant, and that's something that it's hard to, like I have to search up, where can I find this, where can I buy it in bulk? But yeah, I guess making it more affordable is a really big part. I don't think veganism, you can get away with being vegan and eating very like cheaply. It can be incredibly cheap. But if you're trying to make like vegan chocolate chip bread or something like that, where it's a lot of chocolate chips and vegan butter and whatnot, it can get pricey. Getting it from that perspective of being a person of color, when you think about certain aspects of that, it's like, oh, man, there's that concept of like, black people can't afford that, we're just gonna eat what we eat. So that's something that I guess we need to have more discussions about, is the pricing of alternatives. You can get a thing of beans, you can get a can of beans and whip something up. It'll be full of protein and also be full of like good things, healthy food, but actually getting those alternatives, that's what kicks when it comes to the price. I like to meal plan, but usually my meal plans are they're pretty simple, very straightforward. And when it comes to my Asian background, that's when it helps out, because you can add those ethnic spices and cook something up that's real good. So another thing about Black culture is probably our food, such as soul food and things like that. And that food is often made from, it's meat and it's dairy, and a lot of things I've heard, especially from my friends, the school I go to, it's very multicultural, and a lot of them tell me, it's a big part of my culture, meat and dairy, those things are huge in my culture, and I can't turn away from that. And I understand that, because that's also something I've had difficulty with. When I think of some of my favorite dishes, I'm like, man, if I could have that, that'd be great. But there are easy ways to, I don't want to necessarily say easy. There are some challenges in being vegan and also recreating other foods. But there are ways to combat that and also make alternatives. And I also don't think culture is an excuse for it. It shouldn't be an excuse, because a lot of things in our past that are part of our culture, they weren't necessarily a good thing. And when you look at the whole idea of veganism and then at your favorite food, it doesn't really equal in terms of the amount of things that a lot of animals have to go through, and just, even if you don't care about the animals, the other things that veganism combats as well. So yeah, a big part of, I guess, when you're a person of color is being called, oh, like you're a white girl, you're a white boy, because you do certain things that may not adhere to, I guess, the rules of being black or whatever you are. And so my first experience with vegans, they were a white couple, and I remember thinking, see, this is a white people thing. Black people, we don't do this. And so sometimes when I'm around my family, I try to avoid it because I don't want to be called white girl. But it's such a big part of who I am, and my love for animals and whatnot, that as I've gotten older and as I've had more experience being vegan, I don't mind bringing it up. And if people have something to say, I just combat like, why is something that's good for you and good for the planet, why can it only be a white people thing? And we should all kind of, even if you don't necessarily become vegan, but educate yourselves and try and understand what the, reason for being, like why people become vegan in the first place. It's something that I think any person of color who's vegan has probably encountered, and it's something that I like to talk to my family about it now, because I want them to, like I said, just be educated and just understand why I am vegan. A lot of people, they say they love animals and they say this, and I know in my school I hear it a lot, and it's hard to not say anything, but at the same, you don't want to cause any problems, so you just kind of, you don't say anything, but it bugs at you later. And I know when you're in science class sometimes we were talking about dissecting fetal pigs, and I was like, oh man, that's so sad. And I was like, wait a second, I was like, you guys eat ham for lunch, and it's just a little weird. And so my family sometimes does that on both sides, and I have to bring that up. And I know some of my family members who have, like, they love their dog, and sometimes I'll make jokes, like, I never mean it, I'm not gonna eat your dog or anything, and I'll joke around. They're like, I can't believe you would even say that. I'm like, but wait a second, why is the dog kind of, why is it higher than the farm animals? And I know people in my class, we were talking about Asian culture, and there's that common concept that Asians eat cats and dogs and things like that. And while that is true in certain areas, in the majority it's illegal, but I remember thinking, why do you guys, they look at cats and dogs, the people who eat cats and dogs, they look at them as equal to farm animals, which in my opinion is a little bit more, it's more justified than looking at them as different. And people bring up domestication, but there's so many arguments to counter that, and yeah, you'll just deal with a lot of ignorant people, and when you're a person of color, you'll deal with a lot of ignorant people that are of the same skin tone as you. So, yeah. So how you can get the youth into veganism is a pretty big thing to tackle. And I guess it would start with in the schools, I think is a great idea. I think, it's difficult because I come from a background, my school is different than a lot of other schools, and it's easy for me to say, oh, have a chapel service where someone comes in and talks about it. But like my brother, for his senior thesis, he talked about plant-based diet, and he wanted to stray away from using the word vegan, because when you think of the word vegan, you think of a lot of negative things. Like I said, even before I thought of a lot of negative things. I guess approaching it in a sense that is relatable to the youth in terms of what they wear even. I know like a lot of styles that a lot of kids wear. For instance, a lot of both males and females who wear makeup, you could approach that as in, when you test makeup on animals, do you know how it affects the animals? And you can't always approach it from a animal perspective, because some people just don't care, it doesn't bother them. So you might have to approach it from the way it's affecting our environment and our planet. It's hard, it's really difficult, because even as someone who's 16, I can't tell you the way into everyone, like how you're going to get people to pay attention to it, because veganism isn't that unpopular in the sense of, if you go on social media, there are a lot of vegans on social media. There's a lot of vegan YouTubers and things like that, and it's hard to say get a YouTuber to talk about it, because it's not like they're always gonna, it's hard to get. Finding something that the youth pay attention to, social media is a really great way to attract them. Getting people who look like me, getting people who are people of color to talk to students of color is also a great idea too, because like I said, when you think of veganism, you think of white people, and you want to take that away, because that's not true. Really, it's hard, but it's something that if you get a lot of kids who are vegan too, if you get teenagers who are vegan, we could brainstorm ways to do that too. Because when you have people who are 30 or 20 who are vegan, it's not like they're going to necessarily know. What is the youth into? How can we get them to get attracted to veganism? So having a team or something, a vegan team that is 16 or something, that would be cool too. So my favorite part about being vegan was, I brought it up, I actually have a few, but one of them would be, I brought up being hypocritical and whatnot, a lot of people who are non-vegans being hypocritical. And I think my favorite part is just being able to say things that I know aren't going to contradict other things I've said. And I think it's a very, very important tool for me to have, especially being in high school and wanting to, I like debating and things like that, and I've learned how to argue better because of veganism. I'm not like a pro at it or anything, but I've learned that, you know, if I'm going to use one argument, I have to make sure, like I said, it doesn't contradict something else that I said. And being vegan overall just has really I've just educated myself, I feel like, and learned a lot more about other things, such as like fair trade and just things I never would have thought about if I hadn't become vegan. I've also thought about how, like, why there's no healthy food in areas where a lot of Black people live. And it deals with the veganism. I think a lot of people just think of these people who love animals and just want to protect animals, and that's true. But it's also, it feeds other worldly ideas and other areas that don't necessarily have to do with animals, I guess. So that would be one of my favorite parts. Also, I've had to become more flavorful in the kitchen, because when you're vegan, there is an aspect of meal planning. You have to meal plan and be careful of what you eat. I know when I go out and I'm eating food, I can't just order a veggie burger at other places in case there's like milk in it or something. So I'm a lot more careful about what I eat. I'm not the healthiest, because being vegan doesn't mean you're necessarily healthy. So I eat a lot of processed food and a lot of junk food. I try not to. I'm trying to get healthier, especially, 2019. But yeah, being vegan is it's a lot of fun. It's cool to go out and, I guess, going to like vegan restaurants. I had never been to an entirely vegan restaurant until I went for my birthday in Philly in November, and it's just so cool to see so many people who are like you out there. And I think, yeah, being vegan is it's a lot more fun than people think. So yes, continue to stay educated, do your research, and just learn about everything around you and what you eat, what you consume, what you wear, how it affects other beings, other sentient beings, and also other people. It affects humans too. It doesn't just affect animals. And your health, take care of yourself. No matter who you are, if you look like me or if you don't. But veganism is for everybody. It's not just for one group of people. So yeah, continue to stay educated and try it out if you can. That'd be awesome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.